Hey guys, it's Janello. Welcome to this week's episode. We've got a little bit of food and a little bit of beverage, as you can see right here with the gin and tonic ingredients out. At the end of this video, I also have my super secret ingredient that I put in gin and tonics that make them just a notch up. So stick around for that, or jump there right now if you need to get your beverage on. I totally understand. Also, one other thing. I went wide this week because I don't know what I'm doing with this background thing. I don't really like the way that the gray looks by itself. So you're getting to see more. We're playing around with this. Anyway, all right, let's get into the episode. Beginning of the year, I was really excited because I had successfully grown plants from seed, which I've never done before. I grew my cayenne peppers that way, I grew some of my tomatoes that way, and I grew these things called cucamelons, which are cucumbers that look like watermelons, but are the size of grapes. So before we go any further, let's go harvest some of these cucamelons, and then we'll be back here. All right, so we got a pretty good harvest. This is probably the last harvest of the season. As you saw, the vines just kind of took over the whole garden and went crazy. I did not expect that. I was hopeful for a good harvest, but here's the thing. My first few times tasting this, I had these high hopes, this excitement around making a salad out of these cucamelons, and the thing is that they're a bit sour for that. They do have this citrusy taste, which I totally love, but they're too sour to make an entire salad out of that. And that kind of bummed me out. I was a little disappointed. So I thought, like, well, what am I going to do with all these? This was kind of a disaster in the end because it took over a lot of my garden. I mean, it took control of the eggplants. It took control of my bell peppers. I never killed my Kirby cucumbers. I never expected it to get that crazy. So I didn't really know what I was going to do with these because putting them in a salad, like I said, wasn't going to work. Then I posted something on Instagram, and Susan wrote me, and she said, they are worth it if you have space, which is true because they grew all over the place. I only drink gin and tonics with gherkins on toothpicks in them. Fun! Exclamation point. Well, that's a great excuse for me to make an awesome gin and tonic, and so that's what we're going to do today. But first, I'm going to show you a little bit more about these gherkins. So there's a couple of varietals that probably both come from Africa. One is called the Mexican gherkin, and one is called the West Indian gherkin. The West Indian one I could trace back to Africa for sure. The Mexican one, I'm not so sure, but I would guess that it came from the same place. The difference between the two is really just the texture. The Mexican varietal, which this is smooth on the outside. The Caribbean version is spiky on the outside. The taste is supposedly generally the same. Again, a little too sour for a salad, but maybe perfect for a garnish to a gin and tonic. Let me show you what they look like inside. There's just some little seeds in there. Kind of. It sort of looks like a mini cucumber, except there's not as much rind on the outside, and the seeds are fairly large in comparison to the cucamelon itself. Like I said, a bit sour, has a good snap to it, but not something I want to put in a salad. But it is something that I want to put in gin and tonic. So let me go get a glass with some ice, and let's get to making a cocktail. All right, here's my gin and tonic glass of choice. I like the low glass more than the tall high glass. We could talk about gin for a really long time. If you want to talk about gin more, leave me a comment, and we'll talk more. We'll do a whole gin episode if necessary. In fact, I got an idea for an infused gin coming up. This is gunpowder gin from Ireland. It's from a town in the south of Ireland. I did not get to visit it, unfortunately, on my trip last year, but it's a great gin to use when you are adding other flavors like what we're doing today. In addition to the gin, we've got some Fever Tree tonic. You want to use good tonic because that's what the majority of your drink is. In fact, that's the tagline that Fever Tree uses to sell more Fever Tree.
Fever Tree, because 3/4 of your drink is the mixer.
This particular one is cucumber flavored. Lately, they've been coming out with some other more interesting flavors, I guess you would say, to just your standard tonic water, which I at first was like, I don't know about that, but this actually is super, super delicious, the cucumber, and it's gonna be perfect with the garnish, which is really what we're doing right now. Is we spent probably the better part of 4 months growing garnishes so that we get better gin and tonics. And then that secret and trick that I mentioned in the beginning is inside of this little vial right here. I don't know how you like to do your gin. I don't really measure them when I do it, but for you and for today, I'm gonna measure them out. We're gonna go with 1.5 ounces of gin, which makes a pretty stiff cocktail, but I like that in my gin and tonics. We're gonna open up this Fever Tree. We're gonna fill it up, to the level that you like. I do like the move that they do in the UK where they don't pour this into this. They just give you them separately and you decide how much tonic you want. And now to the little trick. So this is Grapefruit Bitters. Now, depending on what gin you use and what kind of gin and tonic you're making, a citrus bitter can really brighten up the whole thing and bring out the citrus flavors in the gin itself. Some of them have a bit of a citrus in the botanicals outside of the juniper. So we're just going to do 3 drops, and then we're of course going to give it a little stir through. And now, for the whole purpose of this video, we're gonna spear a few of these gherkins. We're gonna do 2, let's do 3. And I think we're just gonna stick it right in there like that. And there you go. A cucamelon gin and tonic. Citrusy, full of flavor. Perfect gin and tonic. I don't know that it's worth growing cucamelons just to get these little garnishes, but that's what we got going on this season, and so that's what we're going to use them for. And I would say that that is a success just from the sake that I put a seed in the ground and now I have a delicious gin and tonic. That is it for this week. I'm going to finish that up, and I will see you back here next week.